Hello, thank you so much for joining me once again on this segment of the Social Protection Plaza. And it is the chat on the plaza. We'll be talking about the pension sector. And of course, today we are very privileged to be hosting someone who is very keen on this sector, who has the expertise on this sector, who has been following this sector. I'll let him introduce himself to you.
Thank you so much, Gloria, for having me here. I am Samuel Sanya. I'm a finance, business and economics reporter with The New Vision, which is Uganda's leading daily. I'm also a member of the National Social Security Fund, which is, by law. Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to mandatorily contribute to the fund. Mm-hmm. So, we've been having discussions about the pension sector for a bit sometimes, and we have agreed and disagreed on a few things, yeah, but then also, so when the Uganda Retirement Benefits Regulatory Authority released their 2019 report,
yes,
there are quite a number of things that caught my eyes, a bit of highlights, a bit of laws in the sector, a bit of disappointing things that that especially a worker, you and me, should actually be interested in. And I would like to ask, for you, what hit you the most about the recently released retirement benefits sector outlook?
Oh, yes. One of the things I liked was that there was growth in contributions by about 17% increase in contributions.
Does that directly mean that we actually have more people saving under the different schemes?
That's an interesting observation, because we seem to have hit a plateau. The sector mostly regulates NSSF, which is the mandatory government, law. It's by law. NSSF is by law. And then you have, so NSSF is mostly for the private sector. Yeah. Private sector, mostly people in the formal employment. However, you also have voluntary contributions, mostly by employers. So most employers contribute part of the pensions of their employees to NSSF, and then others maintain a second plan mostly with insurance companies. That they also give some money. So most companies have two plans: NSSF and an additional plan.
But then again, looking at the report, what does it say about our status of pensions in the country, to talk about old age security for the working population?
Two things. First of all, when you asked me about numbers, we had 53 of these schemes in 2018, and in 2019, according to the UBA report, there were 51. So that means they're done by two, and it's interesting that we have a decline, and most of these are formal sector. So when you look to the informal sector, which is much larger, you see that there are lots of gaps and a lot more that could be done. So you have a few people in the formal sector. NSSF with 2.5 million members, 800,000 of them active and the rest dormant, putting together colossal sums of money. By the time the report came out, they showed that the sector had grown to about 13 trillion, but NSSF just released its report end of June and showed that they had actually they had grown 17% themselves. So the total sector assets must be maybe 15 or 14 trillion. Most of it is NSSF. Yeah. But there's a large informal sector of 19.1 million people who don't have a proper scheme to protect them.
Actually, it's very interesting that when you look at figures, they actually tell us about 80% of households that have an older person are very vulnerable to poverty or are living in poverty. And I would want to think that is largely related to the fact that they do not have anything saved up for for that age when they're actually not productive. I mean, for you, what could be like the government interventions in place to actually ensure that the working population right now is able to save up for that time when they are not able to work?
I think the initiatives need to be taken by the local government level. We need to task our mayors, we need to task our LC5s, we need to task our LC1s to put the people that they, that they represent at a local government level into some sort of a collective effort. We need to see more cooperative associations, more circles, having a plan that fits their way of life. So we want to see milk producers.
When you talk about circles,
and the like.
The trend has been that these people actually save for, they're saving up for funerals, they're saving up for, I mean, most of them actually withdraw their money on Christmas and spend it for the festive season.
Yes.
So I don't know how you're actually able to make people interested in that time, 65 and above, or 60 plus.
I actually think that it's not just at the 65 level that you need some sort of help. I would wager that in some places, and borrowing from the SAGE, for the senior citizens, in Karamoja, the beneficiary age was initially 60, while it was 65 for everybody else, before it was raised to 80. And now I have my concerns with why they raised it, putting it out of reach of most people.
It has a lot of political and, financial implications.
I would wager that members should have maybe a 20-year window when they are contributing actively. And then beyond that, we need to come up with ways in which there can be a small benefit given to people as young as 50, because the life expectancy in Uganda is still about 55. So I think by about 50, we should already be talking about benefiting from schemes. But my point is that we need to find ways in which we create schemes at the local government level that take into consideration the risks and the way of life of the people there in order to really bring the numbers up. Because I think nearly 2.5, 3 million people being covered by a scheme, and yet you have 19.1 million working people, is really, for me, it's mind-boggling. Now, we have these few people who invest the money in real estate, in treasury bills, in those interest-bearing, assets, and you have these small people growing wealthier. So you have a few people who are under a scheme getting really wealthy year on year, about 3 million. Then you have the vast chunk, 19.1 million. Just like yesterday, I came back from Barara, dairy farmers who don't have a scheme and are exposed, not just when they are older, at 60, but even when they're at their most productive, in their 40s, in their 30s. So I think you need, for us to arrest the issue of old age and not having any security or any pension plan at that age, I think we need to begin to see how we can involve even 18-year-olds at a local government level.
Mindset, could it be an issue of awareness? People actually do not know or do not, because you as a business journalist, even when it comes to things like insurance, securing our future or uncertainties has been a challenge for us. So could it be an issue of mindset, an issue of interest?
I personally think that the people that are based in Kampala, that have been preaching the social protection and pensions agenda, have been seeing it more from a formal setting where you have an employer and an employee, and both of them combining to save.
More of the same thing.
They have not really tailored the policy and the gospel of pensions to the plumber that works jigs, to the carpenter that sells furniture once in a while, to the house girl who is sometimes out of work, to the people, the vast majority of Ugandans that don't have formal employment. I think that discussion needs to be taken away from Kampala and from the central setting, central government setting, taken down to Chanamkaka, the pineapple sellers there. How do they make money? How do they earn? What plan fits them? How do the milk traders in Barara work? How do the tobacco sellers in West Nile make their living? How do the cattle keepers in Karamoja make their money? I think we need to have a localized discussion about social protection at that point, and then we'll have secured everyone, young and old.
Thank you so much, Samuel, for joining me on the chat on the Plaza. It's always a pleasure to engage you on these topics because I know you are quite passionate about them. And that is it from the chat, and hope to see you once again. Thank you.